You know, in the midst of all this chaos, people in the stores flocking to get as much toilet paper as possible, even though the virus doesn't stem from your asshole. People need time to just chill the fuck out. And they're going to have plenty of time to do that. Well, you're not going to be allowed to really do a lot of social things. Any concerts, any festivals, anything that requires a large amount of people to be together is pretty much canceled. So if you had plans of doing something that required a bunch of people, music, movies, or whatever, it's more than likely that it's going to be canceled. But it's cool. We live in a day and age where we can pretty much stream and watch whatever the fuck we want at home. We have cell phones for that. We have fucking TVs. We have Roku's, Chromecast, Apple TV, cable. I mean, we have all this shit that we can do at home. So this video isn't about the coronavirus, all right? I'm just gonna say it that. It's something, I guess, that could be linked to a similar Return of the Living Dead. That's what I'm going to be talking about. An 80s comedy / horror movie, which in my opinion, there was a bunch of those at that time. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that if you're into that kind of shit, this is right up your alley. So the movie doesn't really take itself serious. Just like a lot of horror movies at that time, it was just, you know, to get people to go watch it, to get the awe, to get the gore, to get the entertainment. That's all what it really was. You know, all you got to do is show some blood, show some killing, show some boobs, show some ass, and, you know, that's the 80s horror recipe. Or even horror movies now, I think, you know, they try to, well, now they're a little bit more clever with it. They try to do a little bit more psychological, but for the most part, it's not a horror movie unless there's blood and boobs, pretty much. So if you're going into this expecting The Walking Dead or Night of the Living Dead, then I suggest you not check it out. But let's get into it real quick. So the movie isn't really about one specific person, as most horror movies where there's this main person. There's a number of main people, from warehouse supply workers to teenage punks to a guy who works at the fucking morgue. It's a very small amount of people in this movie, and everybody plays their part, and the camera always seems to give everybody a fair enough of camera time. So the movie begins with two guys working in this medical supply warehouse. The older gentleman is showing the kid the ropes around the warehouse. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to sign this paperwork. They use these bones for research. You know, if any of these universities want to do research on anything, we have the supplies here for it. Which is weird because while he's showing that kid the ropes, they come across this little rack of skeletons, and he says, oh, like the University of so-and-so ordered this much, so you know, we're gonna send it to him. And the guy's like, well, where do these skeletons come from? He's like, well, they come from India. And I'm like, what the hell is the United States doing getting imported fucking skeletons from India? Seems a little fishy, I don't know. So this older guy starts to freak out this kid, and he tells him, hey, you ever watched that movie Night of the Living Dead? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, that shit was based on a true story. And this movie in the beginning alludes to it being a true story, like this is true events, and you know, characters and so were changed for dramatic effect, whatever the fuck they said. So he starts to freak the kid out. He starts telling him, yeah, this movie is based upon this. And, you know, the guy that directed the movie, they told him, you can't tell the exact story or else we'll sue your ass or whatever. And so the kid is kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then he starts believing it because this dude is fucking dead ass serious. And so he eventually tells the kid, hey, you want to see something creepy? And they go downstairs, and supposedly there's a capsule with a zombie in it. And the older gentleman tells the teenager, so that's him right there. So they kind of open up the lid, and then they look inside the little window, and you can see the zombie in there. And then the dude is like, and then the kid says, oh, you're not going to spill anything, right? It's not going to leak. He's like, oh, no, man, this is a Army titanium metal. This is not going to happen. Boom. And then all the fucking gas starts coming out. And that's how the spread of the virus goes around. So the two get knocked out and later on wake up with the warehouse just into a fucking frenzy. Like everything that was in there that was dead, that was being researched. For some reason the skeletons aren't, which I thought it was weird, but I mean, but they don't have any organs, so whatever. You got a zombie that's in a fucking cooler just banging at the door wanting to get out, and you have these dogs that are cut in half that are just barking. And those, I don't know what the hell they're doing with those dogs. I don't know if they do tests on them and from universities, doctors, I don't know. But the funny fucking thing is, and it's fucked up when I seen it, I was like, that's fucked up, even though it's a zombie dog. But there's a zombie dog on the floor, and the kid ends up flipping it over, and you can see the organ part of the dog, and it starts barking. And the older guy just starts freaking out. He's like, oh my God. He grabs a fucking crutch from the rack, and he starts beating the shit out of this dog, and the dog's just whimpering and crying. And so it's like, that's fucked up, but pretty hilarious at the same time. So the two end up calling the dude who owns the medical supply warehouse, and the dude gets there and he says, so what's the emergency? What did you guys call me for? And he's like, well, the gas, and it started waking everything up. And the guy's like, no, come on. That's, especially the older guy. The older guy is the one who's freaking out the most. He's over here fucking crying and yelling, and he's like, oh my God, no. And he's the one who pretty much started the whole fucking thing. So to take care of business, the first thing that the owner of this medical supply warehouse wanted to do was like, you know what? Let's get that zombie out of the freezer. Let's kill the motherfucker. And then, you know, this will all be solved. We'll just hit him in the head like they did in that movie. And that's it. They don't really plan on this thing still surviving after they put an axe to the fucking head. And so they start freaking out, and eventually, you know, the owner says, you know what? We're going to have to chop him up. And the dude who works at the mortuary, he should be there right now. And so they look out the window, and he is. And they're like, okay, let's chop this fucking body up. Let's take these dogs. Let's take whatever's living in here and let's go to him, and we'll fucking burn these things. And problem solved. There's not going to be any problems. Well, the bright idea that these guys had, it was a smart move, but they didn't anticipate what would happen next. So they get to the morgue. They try to dance around the fact that they just need to get rid of some fucking wild possums or some rabid dogs or some shit like that. Trying to convince the dude at the morgue, like, they just need to burn this stuff. The dude's like, well, that's fucking cruel. Why don't you just take him to a vet or take him somewhere and, you know, get him fixed? Like, why the hell would I want to burn them if all they have is rabies? And so eventually they have to tell him, you know what? It's a fucking arm. And they do that, but the dude just fucking picks up the bag and he opens it, and this arm just comes out and just grabs the dude's legs, and he's like, ah, and he rips his pants off and shit. He starts freaking out. But eventually the dude comes to his senses, because I mean, there's a fucking zombie in your morgue. What are you gonna do? Like, so they just decide, let's burn the motherfucker. They throw it in the incinerator, they close it, and it starts to just catch fire. But something happened that ends up putting this whole thing into motion. This is a public service announcement brought to you in part by me, just to say that Google, you fucked me over this time. Okay, so let me say what had happened. Well, this chunk of video that was recorded somehow mysteriously deleted from my Google Photos. Now, it's supposed to be reliable, right? Of course. It's Google, it's a cloud. It's supposed to be a place where you can put your videos and pictures and nothing will happen. Well, this isn't the first time that it's happened. It's happened to me before. It's happened to me a few times. The first time that it happened, I had all these great pictures of me and my wife when we went out of town, and we went to fucking Arizona, Michigan, fucking Colorado, New Mexico, all these fucking areas that we've been to, took pictures that you can never get back because those were special moments. Gone. Why? Because Google, for some reason, had a malfunction. Fucking, I don't know, lost something. I don't know what the hell was wrong with it. And of course, I'm never going to get them back. And it kind of pisses me off because I put a lot of fucking effort into these videos. And I do a lot of self-editing while I'm doing it. A pause, stop here, pause, and continue. And for this to kind of go missing, it really, really pissed me off. So
Now I have to pick up where the last video left off. So, as I was saying, the guys do end up burning the bodies at the morgue, which causes this reaction from all the fumes coming out of the chimney, mixing in with the sky, the clouds, and then causing this acid rain to come down. It's very fucking poisonous rain that just so happens to be falling on top of a cemetery that's conveniently placed right next door to a fucking morgue. I mean, could it not be any more convenient? I mean, what the hell is a cemetery doing next to the morgue anyways? I mean, I guess it's good business practice, but I mean, morally, don't you think like it seems like okay, nobody's coming to claim this body, throw it in the pile. Like it just seems fucked up, doesn't it? But whatever. So the rain begins to come down and starts waking up all the zombies. And let me tell you, these zombies are indestructible, as I mentioned. These fucking things will not die. So once they're up and alive, I mean, they're dead, but once they're up and moving, they're not going to go down unless you burn the shit out of them.
What the fuck does a zombie look like when it's on fire anyway? Is it just like they don't scream? So what the fuck is it like?
So I didn't even get to the punks, the punk rockers, the punks, the teenage punks. I'll call them teenage punks. I didn't even get to them yet. So all these teenage punks know that one young kid who works at the hospital or medical supply warehouse, I should say. So they all know this guy. And so they go to pick him up because it was one of those punks is the girlfriend of that guy. So she's like, oh, I'm going to go pick up my boyfriend. I'm going to go see if he's okay. And the punk's like, oh, yeah, let's go. Let's go hang out at the cemetery. So they all fucking go and they want to party. And this scene right here kind of pissed me off because I guess I look into it too much. Like I said, this movie doesn't take itself serious. But I mean, okay, so let me explain. So all these punks go into the cemetery, right? Because that's what teenage punks do. They're so enamored with suicide, death, and the fucking macabre. I don't know whatever goes through their fucking disturbed minds. But they're all going there to party. And this one chick, she's over here talking about how she wants to be torn apart by zombies conveniently. And it's all getting her all hot and bothered. And she decides to just strip down to her bare naked body and dance around. And I get why they did it because it's part of the whole teenage horror movie fucking pervy scene. I mean, who was this scene for? Obviously for the teenage boys going through puberty and pervy old ass men. So they're like, oh yeah. But me, when I watch it, I'm kind of like, what the hell's wrong with this chick? Why is she doing this? And later on in the film, she becomes a zombie. If you didn't know that, now you know. She becomes a zombie, and, they try to emphasize this chick for that one moment when she's a zombie. She has her dark red hair, her skin is pale, and you don't even see anything. You just see a silhouette of her, and you see a quick glimpse of how she looks as a zombie. So why did they do that? And then why did they have her stripped naked? It had no purpose in the fucking movie. That's one part that kind of pissed me off about it, because it served no purpose. At least make it as like she's the most indestructible zombie in the end, because she wanted to be eaten by zombies so fucking bad, as she was saying earlier. So, like, what now? It just doesn't fucking make sense to me. But I digress. So the zombies start to wake up and the teenage punks start to freak out. And so they're running back and forth and they're like, oh, let's go into the medical supply warehouse where that one chick went to go look for her boyfriend. So they all go in there and they walk in and they hear the chick in the basement screaming because there's a zombie down there. And so they go down there and this fucking zombie is smart, actually. Like, this chick tried to hide from him inside this metal cabinet or whatever. And this fucking zombie thought, like, you know what? There's a chain here. There's a pulley. Let me wrap the chain around the doorknob and pull the shit out of the pulley. And he did it, and it's pretty amazing. These zombies are pretty fucking smart, and later on I'll tell you about it. But anyway, the zombie's trying to get to her, so he eventually breaks the doors down, and good thing those guys get there, because once they move over the curtain to see who's behind it, it's a zombie, and he's like, brains, and he just chews the fucking head of that one punk. He's like, ah, and he's dead as shit. And all the other punks are freaking out, and the one dude, I don't know his name. He's a well-known actor. He's the one who played Joanna Man. And he ends up getting like a paint can or whatever, and he just tosses it at the head of the zombie, and the fucking zombie just kind of flinches and looks up and says, brains. And they get scared and they just dip and they close the door. And I don't think we ever see that zombie again, honestly. So the punks make it out alive, or at least the ones that were remaining, because that one dude just got his head chewed off. So they head to the morgue and they start banging on the door, and it kind of freaks out the remaining people that were working at the medical warehouse, and the dude who works at the morgue, and the ambulance guys who happen to get there because they were called to watch over these guys because the fucking gas was poisonous to them, and these dudes are turning into zombies and they don't even know it yet. So the punks get there, and the chick is like, oh my God, what happened to you, Freddy? And so she's over here checking up on him, and he's all freaking out, and it's just a bunch of chaos is happening, and these zombies start to fucking wreak more and more havoc as time goes on. So the two paramedics have no idea what's going on yet. They're just like, you know what, let me go get equipment so I can come back and run other tests. So the two guys go out there, and they have no idea that their life is just about to end with these fucking zombies. And as smart as they are, the zombies, after they eat them, one of the fucking dude zombies just fucking hears the little CB radio talking, and he picks up the radio, and he's just like, send more paramedics. And what happens? More fucking paramedics come. Once they step out of that car, done. And it's pretty terrifying too, because there's one scene also while all this is happening, the zombies are trying to break in. The dude who works at the morgue happens to catch one of the zombies, and this zombie doesn't have legs, it's just the upper body. So he straps it to this bed and he starts asking it questions. And this movie wasn't really scary for me personally. It was just a lot of goofiness, and that's what I liked about it. You know, they didn't take itself serious, and that's made it really enjoyable. But this scene in particular was kind of creepy.
Eating brains. How does that make you feel?
It makes the pain go away.
And that's pretty fucking depressing, and that's scary at the same time, because it's almost like, you know, you're not meant to be alive, but you're alive and you're in pain while you're alive. Like that's some horrific shit right there. So that was a pretty dark undertone that came out of fucking nowhere. But knowing that, it kind of made the movie a little bit more scarier for me. So the zombies are trying to break in. The whole time, these zombies are just trying to get in. They're busting the windows, trying to get in through every crevice, nook and cranny that they can. And these dudes just, you know, they're blocking typical zombie movie form. They get like tables, cabinets, they put them in the way, they get nails and just board it up as much as they can. But they don't realize that the old guy and the young guy, them being poisoned from that capsule, exposed them to that poison, which is going to make them into zombies. So they're kind of fucked on the inside, but they don't know it yet. They just think that they're sick. And in the meantime, when all this shit is happening, the movie goes into the outside, like what's going on in the outside world. Well, the cops were eventually called, and they start showing up one by one, but eventually they're all getting eaten. So just more and more start showing up, and that's when it becomes a crisis. And then the cops start building barricades to try to stop them, but I don't think they realize, you know, what kind of shit they're being exposed to. So they build like this fucking barrier, and like one or two zombies come, and those cops are like ready. They're like, okay, you know, and they're shouting their commands or whatever. And eventually hundreds of these motherfuckers just start coming out, and they freak out and they just start blasting all their guns. Like everybody is just firing at will, but they cannot get to them. So the zombies eventually get to those cops and eat them all up. And just like I had mentioned earlier, with the movie being quote unquote taking place in true events or in a true time, because in this movie, for some reason, they said that Night of the Living Dead was a true story. It just happened to just change the details around or whatever. But the military knew exactly what to fucking do, because they hit up a colonel who lived in San Diego. You know, the dude's a bit of a prick. And a little bit earlier in the movie, he shows up at home and he has like these two guard posts, just like the Queen has over there in England. And they're just posted there waiting for the dude to come home. And they open the gate for him. They close and they stand all in attention. But he ends up getting there, and he's kind of a prick to his wife. She's like, oh, I made lamb chops your favorite. He's like, I had them for lunch, bitch. Well, he didn't say bitch, but might as well. The fucking lady is over here cooking for you, and you can at least say, oh, thanks, honey. What an asshole. But anyway, he gets a call from a military base in the East Coast, and he's like, sir, we found the capsule. We found the situation. But the problem is the virus got out, and everybody is poisoned and there's fucking zombies. And so, you know, the guy in California, he's kind of looking at the computer. He gets up all calmly. He looks on the computer. He's like, okay, yeah, you know what to do. You know, just send the nuclear missile there, and you know, we'll chalk it up to something. We'll figure something out. You know, typical government shit. So before all that shit happens, before the nuclear bomb comes down and destroys that little town in Kentucky, all the shit inside the morgue is going down. Like I mentioned, the kid becomes a zombie. He starts chasing his girlfriend and the dude who runs the morgue around. You know, the people start dying. The old guy who I mentioned was fucking always crying and yelling. He threw himself into the incinerator. Like, a bunch of shit is going on. Like, there's so much shit going on that it would be, I would have to explain it to you in detail, but I wouldn't want to. I would really want you to watch it because it's a lot of entertainment. But anyway, before the missile gets there, all this shit is happening at the morgue. All the zombies are just roaming free, just eating as much as they could. So the guy in California just gives a green light. Yeah, nuke the fucking place. So what happens? A nuclear bomb comes down and boom! Everybody is fucking toast. Now back to your regular scheduled programming. Brought to you on par by...
And that's pretty much how the movie ends. I mean, there's nothing special about it. There's nothing that's gonna make you be like, oh, yes, oh. It's none of that shit. Pretty much, everybody gets killed and the government gets to pretty much go on their merry way, be like, hey, good morning, sir, yes. Hello, China. Hello, Russia. How you doing? What is it, Iraq? Oh, Iran, I'm sorry. The movie isn't all that great, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's your generic, typical horror zombie movie. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying to don't watch it. Hey, everybody stay away. There's a charm to it, and it's a movie of its time. And if you learn to appreciate it for what it is, then you'll have a lot of fun with this one. I'm telling you, man, since the Rona is out there on the prowl, you might want to watch Tubi TV, some Netflix, I don't know, some Fandango Now, some Disney Plus, and just fucking lock yourself in the house with your Maruchan, with your little sandwich, with your fucking Hot Pockets, with some water, Pepsi, whatever the hell you drink. For me, I'm a coffee guy and a water guy, so that's probably what I'll have. I'll have my mug of coffee and my agüita, and then I'll be like, okay, and then let me get a piece of pan, like, oh, let me put a little bit of, or a fucking bolillo. Just toast that motherfucker, and then put some mantequilla with a little bit of sugar, and be like, just eat it, drink it with some coffee. In other words, instead of catching the Rona, catch up on some movies. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, whenever I catch up on another movie, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have plenty of time to do that, I'll come back here and I'll talk with you guys about it, all right? At the bottom, let me know what you guys think. What's your favorite zombie movie? Do you even like this movie? Do you give a shit whether it's good or bad because it's a zombie movie? Do you hate zombie movies? And if you do, I don't know why you do. Maybe because they overdraw it a little bit too much nowadays. But whatever your comments are, tell me at the bottom. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Aries the Child. So until next time, friends, I'll catch y'all on the next one, all right? Deuce.